I don't even know where to start, so I guess I'll just be blunt about it. I cheated on my husband 15 minutes before our wedding. Yeah, I know how insane that sounds. People read stuff like that online and think no one could be that reckless. But I was. And I need to explain what was going through my head, even if none of it makes sense now. I grew up in a pretty average American family. Small town, church on Sundays, big family dinners on holidays. I was raised to believe marriage was the ultimate goal for a woman. You date, you get engaged, you get married, then you have kids. That's the line you're supposed to walk. I was the good girl most of my life. Never really broke rules, never got into serious trouble. And yet, on the biggest day of my life, I made the worst decision possible. Leading up to the wedding, everything felt overwhelming. I was only 26 and my fiancé Jason was 28. We'd been together 4 years. He's the kind of guy everyone loves. Funny, smart, solid. He was always the one who kept the steady. I was the one who panicked about bills or complained about work. He calmed me down. My parents loved him. His parents treated me like their own daughter. On paper, everything was perfect. But in the weeks before the wedding, I started to feel cornered. That's the only word I can use. Like I had walked into a tunnel and there was no turning back. People kept telling me how lucky I was, how amazing Jason was, how beautiful the wedding would be. All I could think was, is this really it? Is this the only version of my life I'm ever going to live? The doubt ate at me, but I shoved it down because who backs out of a wedding when everything's already paid for? When two families are invested, when your fiancé is genuinely a good guy. So there I was in the bridal suit at the church. Hair done, makeup done, white dress on. My bridesmaids were buzzing around, laughing, taking pictures. But inside, I felt like I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, like I was suffocating. I went out into the hall just to get some air, and that's when I ran into Mark. Mark is Jason's cousin. He's a year older than me, and he's always been the wild one in the family. The type who partied too much in college, dated too many girls, never really settled down. He and I always had this weird tension, though. We joke around at family gatherings, sometimes too much, and I'd catch him looking at me in a way that wasn't just cousin-in-law appropriate. I ignored it because, well, I was with Jason. But that day, when I saw him in the hall, my whole body reacted. He looked at me in my dress and just smirked, like he could read exactly what was going through my head. He said something like, "You sure you're ready for this?" And it wasn't a casual question. It was like he knew I was doubting everything. I don't know why, but those words broke something open in me. I felt seen for the first time in weeks. I told him I needed a break from the noise, that I felt like I was about to explode. He leaned against the wall, so relaxed while I was practically shaking. And then he said, "You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to play the role everyone's handing you." My heart was pounding. I knew I should have walked away. Instead, I stayed. He followed me into one of the side rooms. It was quiet, empty, away from everyone. My hands were trembling and I was telling myself to stop, to leave, to go back to the bridal suite. But then he stepped closer. And the way he looked at me, it was like every ounce of fear, guilt, and pressure turned into this desperate need to escape. And I let myself escape into him. I don't need to go into graphic detail, but it happened fast, reckless, like we were both drunk on adrenaline, even though neither of us had touched alcohol yet. I remember the sound of my dress rustling, my heart pounding in my ears, and this wild thought, I am ruining everything right now. But another voice in my head kept saying, finally, you're not being perfect. Finally, you're doing something for yourself. Afterwards, I stood there shaking, fixing my dress, trying to make sure no one would know. Mark just gave me this look, half smug, half serious, like he knew this was going to explode eventually. He whispered, "No one has to know." And I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe I could wipe it off me, walk back out, and pretend nothing happened. So that's exactly what I did. I went back to the bridal suit, forced a smile, and acted like everything was normal. My bridesmaids never noticed. My mom came in and told me how beautiful I looked. Jason's mom hugged me and said she couldn't wait to call me her daughter. And all I could think was, I just betrayed your son in the worst possible way. When the ceremony started, I walked down that aisle like every other bride, with everyone smiling and crying, but my secret was already burning inside me. And I just knew that it wouldn't stay hidden forever. Walking down that aisle, my hands locked around the bouquet. I kept replaying what just happened like a movie stuck on repeat. The sound of my heartbeat in that side room, the way Mark's eyes had bored into mine, the feeling that I had crossed the line I could never uncross. Jason stood there at the altar, smiling at me like I was the love of his life, like I was everything he'd ever wanted. And I was smiling back, but inside I was screaming. The ceremony felt like it lasted forever, but also like it was over in the blink of an eye. I remember saying the vows, my voice steady somehow, even though my throat was dry. I slid the ring on his finger with hands that were still trembling. I kissed him and everyone clapped. But when his lips touched mine, all I could think about was how wrong it felt now, how dirty I felt, and how he didn't deserve what I had just done. At the reception, everything was a blur. People hugging me, congratulating us, toasting us. My mom kept telling everyone how happy she was. Jason's dad gave this long, heartfelt speech, and our friends were laughing, drinking, dancing. On the outside, it was the perfect wedding. On the inside, I felt like I was walking around with a loaded bomb strapped to my being. Every time Mark looked at me from across the room, I felt a jolt of panic. Did anyone notice? Did I look guilty? Did I look different? I tried to stay glued to Jason's side. Every time he held my hand, it killed me a little more. He leaned in a couple times during the night and whispered things like, "You're the most beautiful woman here," or "I can't believe I get to call you my wife now." And all I wanted to do was cry. But not in the happy way brides cry at weddings. It was guilt eating me alive. The worst part was how good Jason was that night. He was everything a husband is supposed to be. He danced with me, made sure I ate, made sure I drank water between champagne glasses. He introduced me to people I hadn't met before, bragged about me, told everyone how lucky he was. And I was standing there with this rotten secret inside me, smiling like I deserved any of it. But here's the thing that might make people hate me even more. A small part of me kept replaying what had happened with Mark. And it wasn't regret in those flashes. It was desire. Like I was craving that adrenaline rush again, craving that feeling of being reckless and out of control. That thought scared me more than anything because it meant that I wasn't just guilty. I was also tempted. I kept sneaking glances at Mark. He was sitting at one of the tables, drinking, laughing with cousins, but every now and then he'd catch my eye and hold it just a little too long. No one else seemed to notice, but to me, it felt like the whole room could see the electricity between us. I avoided him as much as I could, but the avoidance itself probably made it obvious. Later that night, after the reception ended, Jason and I left for our hotel. We'd booked a flight to Hawaii for our honeymoon the next morning. In the car, Jason was holding my hand, kissing it, saying how excited he was to start our life together. And I nodded, smiled, said all the right words back. But between us, there was a big God. I can't really say the other piece, but you know what I mean. In the hotel room, it was supposed to be this big romantic night. Newlyweds' first night as husband and wife, all that. Jason was gentle, sweet, everything you'd expect. And I lay there the whole time feeling like I was betraying him with every touch. I kept seeing flashes of that side room in the church, hearing Mark's voice, feeling his hands on me. It was like my brain wouldn't let me shut it off. When Jason fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed and my stomach dropped when I saw who it was. Mark, just a simple text. No one will ever know. My hands were shaking as I deleted it right away, but the fact that he had the nerve to text me on my wedding night made me realize something. This wasn't over. Not for him, and maybe not for me either. The next morning on the flight to Hawaii, Jason was dozing off next to me, his head leaning against mine, and all I could think was, what if I end up ruining this whole marriage because of one stupid mistake? What if that wasn't just a one-time thing? What if I had already set myself up to be the worst wife possible? I told myself over and over, bury it, pretend it never happened, love Jason harder, be a better wife, and maybe the guilt would fade. People make mistakes, right? Maybe this was mine, and maybe I could live with it as long as I never let it happen again. That was the plan I made on that plane ride. But guilt doesn't just fade, it festers. And no matter how much I try to bury it, the truth has a way of clawing its way back to the surface. I thought I could bury it. That was my whole plan. Act normal, be the best wife I could be, and hope that somehow my mistake would fade into the background of our lives. And for a while, it almost worked. Our honeymoon in Hawaii was beautiful. Beaches, sunsets, holding hands, eating too much food.